Supergirl crosses over with iZombie.
And Felicity fights Oliver with some lasers, and we're going to talk about all that and more as we review all the CW DC TV shows. Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Welcome to DCTV Recap, the show where we review all the CW DC TV shows because nobody asked us to do it, but we all going to do it anyway because there's so many shows we're just going to do it, you know?
Actually, someone did ask us to do this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's, you know, hey, we just got back from vacation. That's the reason why this video is a couple days late. And hey, also, we just got back and I noticed these Geek History Lesson t-shirts.
Wow, that's a pretty cool t-shirt, Jason.
It's very comfortable. It's very soft. Our new Geek History Lesson logo.
So soft.
If you want to get one yourself, go check it out. There's a link in the description below. But enough of this jibba jabba. We're going to talk about Supergirl. We'll talk a little bit about Flash and talk about Arrow. Let's jump to it.
Supergirl Season 2, Episode 18, Ace Reporter. Lena's ex-boyfriend Jack Sphere comes to National City to reveal his breakthrough in nanotechnology that has the potential to eliminate all diseases.
All right, we're going to break this down just like we do all the rest, the good, the bad, and then, you know, a little rating, a little prediction.
Yeah.
So let's start off with the good of Supergirl. The opening of this episode had a really cool flying intro.
Yes.
It was really neat. Like, we don't really get to see that. Like, this is like a 30-second long, like, her just zipping around the city having fun, and then, of course, to find out that there's nothing going on in the city. I really enjoyed that moment.
I think it's something that they don't take enough advantage of, and I do understand that it's because of...
That they don't take enough advantage of.
The show doesn't take enough advantage of. Because it's expensive, CG, to do a shot like that, but just... a moment to see her fly. Again, it's something that makes her truly unique and separates her from the other shows. So it's really fun and satisfying just to see that. Also, this episode is directed by Armin Kevorkian, who is who's the visual effects supervisor there.
Cool.
Which may have been why we got that really cool intro. And so, like, mad props to him for now being
They
a
might
director.
also, jumping ahead a little bit, they might have also realized that all the nanotech stuff in this episode was maybe a little too complicated to not have him at the helm.
Oh, that's true. That's a good call.
Then we get Raul Coley from iZombie. He has a great presence as this sort of Mark Zuckerberg leader of Biomax.
Yeah.
In the opening scene, I thought the minute he walked into the show, he stole the scene. Every scene he was in, he stole it. He just had a great presence. And even later on, he did a really good job of just playing, like, dead robot guy.
Yeah.
Which was really good. And many actors, like, don't do well, but even, like, he did a really... I can't even explain how he did it.
It was good physicality.
He did some great physicality in all of his performances. And by the way, Biomax, a Superman villain, if you didn't know that.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I'm not an iZombie person because zombies scare me, but I thought he was amazing. And the CW shows, the DC TV shows, they need to scoop him up and bring him over because he was wonderful to watch.
Yeah. What else did you like from this episode?
I really liked all of the Kara and Lena stuff. This was... I mean, we've had a lot of development of this throughout the season, but this is sort of the episode where I feel like we're getting a big turn for where the characters are going to go in the last 5 or 4. I don't know.
4 episodes.
I don't know how many episodes are left in anything anymore. Yeah, 4 episodes of the season. And I just like watching them together, although really it felt a lot more like it was their romance. Then I felt like, because
wrong with that.
They have such good chemistry. And
nothing wrong with that.
That would have been way more interesting than the Mon-El stuff.
I want to give mad props to Melissa Benoist in this episode because there is a moment, I think, that encapsulates Melissa Benoist as being perfection for this role. And it's where Jack, is that the Biomax gentleman?
Jack
Okay,
Spear.
so Jack is there and talking to Lena, and Lena introduces Kara as the best reporter in National City.
Yeah.
And Melissa Benoist's reaction, which I don't think was probably even scripted, is just to cackle out loud at that statement. And it comes off as pure Melissa Benoist, and it's such a great reaction, and it's just such, like, wow, like, she is so joyous in this role. It's really good. I thought freezing Supergirl later on in the episode, she freezes the nanobots. And
that was so cool.
They freeze into a cloud. That was a great special effect. The special effects in this episode were bumped up a little bit, I thought.
I thought it was a great use of the freeze breath as well, because sometimes that's silly, but this was one of the times where it seemed a better choice than the laser vision, usually, or the heat vision. Usually I wonder...
Laser vision.
I'm sorry. Usually I wonder why they didn't use their optic blast, Cyclops.
What else did you dig from this episode?
I really liked Snapper Carr. Snapper Carr has been a consistent standout throughout the episode. I think it's a little contrived that he gives Kara her job back at the end.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah, but he had the...
I mean, the title of the episode is Ace Reporter.
Yeah. He had the best joke of the entire episode where Kara says, "Don't you ever say thank you?" And he says yes once to a divorce lawyer, and it was awkward for everyone.
The last time I said it was to a divorce lawyer.
Yeah. Like, that was great.
I had that in my notes are good, too.
And he gets a really great moment of humanity where he welcomes Kara back into the fold. Like, this character could have so easily have gone the wrong way because it's difficult to have, like, that jerky guy and then have them sort of bear themselves and be a nice guy at the same time. And
it could also have gone the other way because in the comics, Snapper Carr is a goofy sidekick.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a great reinvention of that character, and he handles it with great aplomb. So every time we get Snapper Carr, the episode is better for it. And there's a lot of Snapper in this episode.
I want to bring up as well, Lena Luthor gets a lot of great moments. You brought up their relationship, but Lena Luthor gets a lot of great moments in this. When Kara confronts Lena about Jack and it's like, hey, here's the video, stuff like that, it was a really touching scene. And sometimes the CW superhero shows tend to do these stuff where, like, it's so melodramatic. The Flash loves to do it. The Flash lives in melodrama. Arrow does too. But it's nice when these shows step out of the melodrama for a minute and literally like, hey, I'm your friend. Your boyfriend is made of nanobots. Here's a video.
Yeah.
And to see them actually react to that, because sometimes they would write that scene as, like, Lena would be like, that video is a fake, I don't believe it, so like that. I didn't mean to do an impression of anybody right there. But sometimes they'd lean into that, and this scene was just like, Lena was like, oh my god, I almost slept with robots.
Yeah.
So it was really nice. And then Lena got some really great dialogue in this episode. I wrote down two great lines, especially when she's talking to the secretary villain at the very end, which I didn't like.
Oh, I can't remember what her name is.
I can't remember her name. I don't care. And Lena says, so the secretary woman says some sort of line about Jack being like, all you've ever done is, all I've ever done is stand behind this man.
She said it's true what they say, behind every great man, there's a great woman.
Yes, and Lena's response is, I wouldn't know. I've never stood behind a man.
It was so good, and Katie McGrath gave it such a good delivery.
Yep. And then Lena immediately, 30 seconds later, gets another line. The secretary, kicks her in the stomach. Is like, did I mention I'm a black belt? And then Lena goes, punches her in the face and goes, did I mention I'm a Luthor?
Yeah, she elbows her in the face a couple minutes later.
And you're that's such great dialogue.
Yeah, she's great for moments like that.
Yeah.
There is a moment later on where her and Kara are gonna jump into it, and she's kind of doing the thing where she can't stand still.
She can't stand still.
But for the most part, she's a really wonderful Lena. And again, that's a character that doesn't have a ton of development in the comics, and they're really doing interesting stuff with her on the show.
Nothing really beyond pure villain.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about the reveal that Jack is controlled. So we get this reveal that Jack, of course, is made of nanotech, and that he's actually being controlled. He doesn't remember any of the stuff that he's doing because Lena confronts him. He's like, hey, you did all this stuff. And he's like, what are you talking about? I thought that was a nice twist. I did not see that coming. Maybe a little unnecessary, but I also thought by doing that, it allowed us to keep the emotional relationship between Jack and Lena.
It's a way to preserve that. It's also a way, I know the character dies, but it's a way to bring that...
He's nanotech. He can come back anytime he wants.
It's a way to preserve his integrity in case you want to bring him back as a character later on. I also liked it because, again, Raul Coley, when he says, I don't know what you're talking about, that's the response you expect, because that's what all bad guys say. I don't know what you're talking about. But he's so genuine that, right away, you know that he's being honest and there's something else afoot. The moment plays really well.
And then especially the moment where Lena has to kill him.
Yeah.
And, he's like, do it. And she's like, I'm sorry. And then I think he says something like oh, I'm sorry for a lot more stuff than this.
Yeah.
Because you get the impression that he's like, oh, I should have never let you go.
Yeah. He chose work over her.
He did. He chose the nanobots.
He chose the nanobots.
That's right. Also, during that moment, I want to give a quick shout out to a person, again, that we've mentioned a couple of times on the show, but we need to mention more and more and more, and that is Blake Neely. The music that's upswelled during Jack's death was great.
It was lovely.
It was so good. So major props to Blake Neely. Again, a lot of people ignore the score in these shows. Don't, because Blake Neely does some really good stuff sometimes.
He writes great themes.
He writes great themes. And then let's talk about the final scene. I give this as a positive because I did not see this happening. Terry Hatcher walking in to make a deal with Lena Luthor. What is that about?
It's her best scene to date. We know Lena's going to wind up being the villain.
Yes.
Because
if not this season, next season.
Yeah. And this might be an interesting way to merge these two storylines of the villainesses that have been hanging out around the outside of the show. So, yeah, it was cool. It was a cool reveal, and I thought she was good in it. So.
All right, let's move on into the bad. Very early on, there's a shot, when Kara is cooking, and it there's a GoPro on top of her pan, and we get that shot. Ugly shot. Don't ever do that shot again, Supergirl. Don't.
You don't need a GoPro on these shows.
It really stood out. It really badly stood out. And usually the camera work on the shows don't stand out. That shot was like,
well, the only other time I think any of the shows have used a GoPro was in season 1 when Oliver's running around doing...
Season 1 Arrow?
Yeah, doing parkour, and there's like a rig off his chest.
Yes.
I think that's the only other... It stands out as such a weird choice because we've never used it before because it's unnecessary.
Well, it's also, what does the viewpoint of the pan show you?
Really? How bad can it possibly?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Also, grief baking, is that a thing?
I don't know. Let's talk about the worst thing in this episode. Lyra. Oh, dear Lord. Lyra, I thought we were rid of her in literally the worst episode of the season where we found out that she's a weird alien art thief.
Who lives in a trailer park. So now Lyra shows up. She wants to fight crime with James. James goes... God, I hate the Guardian. James goes with it. And then Lyra beats the crap out of a kid? How did this scene get past the writer's room? What the hell, guys? I have a controversial thought.
Sure.
Write off Jimmy and Win. There is nothing for them to do on the show.
Keep Win, though.
This subplot sucks. It doesn't do anything but show you that Lyra's still a maniac, and you're kind of wasting this Legion tie-in. And then, not only is she a maniac in this scene, when Wynn confronts her about it, and granted,
I have that down too.
They do the typical scene where it's like, I'm talking to my real girlfriend about like my work girlfriend, except his work girlfriend is James, so whatever. He's kind of like, we appreciate everything, and we're breaking up. He fires her, and she goes crazy, and she doesn't even go crazy in like a good way. It's just an actor yelling because they can't make a better choice.
Yes,
this scene is terrible.
I wrote down her line. Her line is, and this is how she performs it. Do not be here when I get back.
Yeah,
and she yells it at that tone.
Yeah,
and you're like, what is this? It comes off. This whole subplot comes off as a bad Mork and Mindy subplot. It does not fit because it's interesting because the Jack Biomax storyline with Lena actually has a lot of weight to it.
Yes.
And then Kara's also relationship with Snapper Carr comes off, surprisingly for Supergirl, as pretty realistic.
As pretty genuine, yeah.
And great word, very genuine. And then when we cut to these scenes of like, I'm a crime fighter in a futuristic tin suit who's fighting crime with an out-of-control alien sidekick, you're like, what?
Yeah. I mean...
And I get, like, the Raul Cooley... Sorry for interrupting.
Okay.
And I get the Raul Cooley is about biotech or nanotech. So, save your comments on that. I get it. But I'm talking about the human interactions are real, whereas, like, the human interactions in this subplot make no sense.
They don't. They don't make it. They're dumb. They're not well executed. Jimmy needs to be off the show. There's nothing left for him to do.
Yes.
I don't know. I was really rooting for Wynn and Lyra because I like the idea of that. Of course, Wynn should...
Wynn being happy, yeah.
Yeah, and of course Wynn should have an alien girlfriend. Of course he should.
Yeah.
And then another tie to the Legion is always cool, but it's just been so bungled the whole season, and this just seems to be the culmination of nonsense.
This storyline to me... this storyline to me was like, we need to be done with this Guardian stuff. This Guardian stuff needs to go away.
It just adds nothing.
You know,
it adds nothing to the show.
Yeah, it adds. It's weird because I actually wrote down this note that I was like, oh, are they making Lyra the new Mon-El? Because Mon-El in this episode was actually quite good.
bless this episode for only putting Mon-El in maybe 15 whole minutes. That was great.
But also making him useful.
Yeah, and when all Mon-El has to do is be goofy guy
and support Kara
and not Kara's boyfriend,
yep.
he's serviceable.
But
he's
like,
completely
serviceable.
Yeah,
this episode, this was the downside of this episode.
Yeah.
It was like, get rid of Guardian.
Yeah, completely.
Get rid of Guardian, get rid of Lyra. All right. Ready to move in the rating? Let's do it.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, Ashley, what would you give this episode? Ace, Reporter, or Supergirl?
I think this is one of the best episodes of Supergirl that we've gotten this season. I think we introduced a compelling villain that I'm excited and hope sticks around in the canon, and I love what Kara and Lena and Snapper's relationship, how they move forward in this episode, so I'm going to give it 4. I thought this was a really good episode.
I thought this episode was a great little weird Superman adventure with some great character moments, which is exactly what I need Supergirl to be. This reminded me of a Superman comic book. The Guardian stuff knocked this down for me. Because otherwise, I would have, man, if without the Guardian stuff, I would have given this a 5.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I'm giving it a 4. But man, that Guardian stuff knocked this down a whole full point.
Yeah, go find a video editor, have them cut them out, and the episode will be so much better.
All right, so based on this episode, Ashley, what do you see is coming in the future of Supergirl?
I think that in the future of Supergirl, we are going to see Kara have to make a choice between saving Lena and saving someone she loves, because her and Lena's friendship, per the sake of the show, has developed very quickly. They're very close, so I think they're probably going to put her up against someone like Alex, and Kara's going to go save Alex, and then that is what is going to cause the end of the season turn toward true villainy that's going to set her up as just the big bad for season 3.
Nice.
That's what I think is going to happen. What do you think is coming down the pipe for Supergirl?
I think Mama Mon-El is going to get the nanotechnology from Lena. And use it for some nefarious purpose. Maybe to kill only Kryptonians?
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
I think this episode was put here for a purpose. I think the nanotech is going to serve some sort of purpose, and that's what we're doing.
That's cool.
That's my idea.
That's really cool.
All right, let's jump into The Flash.
The Flash, Season 3, Episode 19, The Once and Future Flash. Barry travels forward in time to 2024 to find out Savitar's identity and save Iris's life.
And you can travel backwards in time and watch our recap of that Flash episode by going and clicking up that there on that little card up there. It'll take you direct to our review. But I wanted to bring up something that everybody in the comments, there are major spoilers right here, of course, for all of our shows. But the last scene we see, Caitlin Snow, Killer Frost, gets to see who Savitar is. And she's like, let's get to work, something like that. And everybody in the comments of our recap is now, and everybody on Twitter, I have so many people tweeting me about this, they now obviously think that Ronnie Raymond is Savitar because of this scene. I want to state this right now. Ronnie Raymond's not Savitar.
Heck no.
I get why you're making that conclusion.
Yes.
It's not him. It is not Robbie Amell. It is not Ronnie Raymond. I'm putting $500 on that reveal right now.
Man, if all those people pay you, you're gonna get so many dollars.
But really quickly, I wanted to say something. I wanted to backtrack a little bit because I've been thinking about this episode. It's been a couple days since that episode. I kind of think Savitar is some version of Barry now.
I have come around on that idea too.
And I hate that I have come around on that.
I don't like that idea. But based on that episode and based on everything that we know, it seems to be the most logical, the point of least resistance, and that's what the Flash always does. The most obvious, easiest choice.
The reason why I've been so resistant to this, some sort of Barry Allen theory, is because I wanted to give the writers a little bit more credit. I wanted to be like, no, they're going to come up with something more inventive. Like, they're going to make, like, a way for us to think that Dante is, and Dante might still be Savitar. I hope Dante's Savitar. Yeah. Because I think that's interesting, because then he's a personification of Flashpoint. If it's a version of Barry, I think it's just not going to be satisfying.
I agree. I just think it's not lazy, but it's uninventive.
Yeah. Yeah, and we already know that it can't be the Barry of 2024 because we've seen him. We've seen him already.
We've seen him. We've seen that.
So it can't even be that
Spider-Man 3 wig.
I don't know, but I'm kind of coming around on that theory. But it's not Ronnie Raymond, and I just wanted to state it here.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's zip into Arrow.
Arrow Season 5, Episode 19, Dangerous Liaison. Oliver, Team Arrow, Argus, and the SCPD kick off a citywide manhunt for Adrian Chase. Helix tells Felicity that they have a way to find Chase, but they will need something big and illegal from her in return.
All right, just like Supergirl, talk about the good, the bad, then we're going to have a rating and a prediction. All right, Ashley, what'd you like in this episode?
I liked Dinah Drake. It's not Lance anymore, it's Drake. They just added Black Canary and Wild Dog to the team full-time.
Well, they're gonna be a full-time cast member next season.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this episode, I think, really proves that this is the Black Canary that we have needed for so long. She's capable. She looks like she's doing her own stunts. She holds her ground well, and making the effect a metahuman effect really is really cool. I really like. She's a very minor part of this episode.
She's a very minor part of this episode. That's why I'm surprised you're bringing her up.
But I just. You know, I have my feelings about the various Black Canaries we've had over the years, and I like Black Canary, so it's just so cool that she's so good in this episode.
Yeah, she is great in this episode. I want to talk about this really cool scene in the very beginning where they come into an arcade, and Mr. Terrific is very concerned about a mint condition Maximum Force machine. By the way, I have played Maximum Force, so I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Is it a good game?
No, it's terrible.
Aww.
But I just thought it was a nice little character beat, like, again, making Curtis the nerd.
He's a nerd.
It's really cool. So, Lance talking to the grieving husband of a victim of Prometheus. Not only I thought it was a great scene, it made this kind of silly concept of Prometheus very real world. That's what I liked. A lot of the stuff I liked this episode was it took this silly concept of everything they were doing and kind of be like, let's show Lance's storyline was all about what are the real world consequences.
Bringing it down to human level.
And that scene, like the guy snapped at them and then he like relaxed. And
that's something that Arrow can do really well because they're street level heroes dealing with quote, street level problem.
And then Lance, of course, is saying to him, you're going to know the true meaning of justice. Justice.
That was a great...
Go watch the episode again. He says justice.
It's amazing.
And then getting this relationship that started with Lance and Renee, and Lance being like, I would give anything to be with my daughter. And it hits home.
The Lance as mentor to Renee is a surprisingly great storyline. And... this is something that I've been wondering about for a long time with Renee, like whether or not he's ever going to do anything to get his daughter back, and seeing him forced to take, like he needs, I hope he doesn't have any, I was going to say a swift kick in the ass, you know, to get started on that. And there are some people that are like that, and it's nice to see that Lance is willing to do that for him. You
want to know why Lance is willing to do that for him?
Because he's been that person before.
Because, well, yes, Lance in another life is Renee.
Yeah.
If Lance doesn't join the police force, he's Renee.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they're paralleling these two.
And that's why they have Renee he tells a story about passing out drunk and his daughter getting hurt, and like that, of course, would really hit home with the character that we just saw seriously deal with his alcoholism for like the 5th time.
What else did you like from this episode?
I liked a lot of the stuff between Lila and John.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah.
Because I really like John Diggle, and I really like Lila Diggle, I guess is her last name now.
Yeah, she's Diggle.
And I like the strain that has been put on their relationship now that she's basically had to step up and take over Argus. And I think this, again, was a way to take the folding in of Argus in the storyline and ground it and make it matter to us. Because Argus is not something that I'm super interested in, generally in the show. But have it affect their relationship and have Lila be forced to make these difficult decisions that are very much akin to what Oliver has to do on a regular basis, and how John can compartmentalize that or not because she's his wife, makes for compelling television. And the scene where they're at home and she's like, hey, we need to talk about this, was a great scene.
Let's also talk about a little bit, going on your point, a little bit of John confronting her about them holding this person without a trial, especially since John
was recently
in prison. Like, he kind of has a very interesting perspective on that.
A lot of good Daddy Diggle moments.
Yeah. There was a great car chase action scene in the middle of this episode where these hackers or mercenaries are going after the Argus agent, and then Arrow and his team show up, and they have to let her go and stuff like that. Again, I just want to bring it up. The action in that scene was great. Action in Arrow is fantastic.
Always great.
Bouncing on your point a little bit more, Yeah, I had Lila in this episode. And here's the thing. I didn't realize I missed Lila. I do.
Yeah.
I kind of wish Lila was a full-time cast member. Mm-hmm. I really do. I kind of get that she would always be off to the side because she's running Argus and stuff like that. But she's awesome. And this scene where she like gets up on Felicity's grill and being like, why did you let them go? Don't you realize how stupid that is? And I don't mean any offense in this in any way. I don't know if this will be offense or whatever like that. Having a smart, capable woman like Lila say that to Felicity to call her out brings a different tone to that conversation than Arrow or Oliver.
Than if it was a man, yes.
Than Oliver
yes,
saying that.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because we do have Oliver having a similar confrontation with her, and then
she ignores
Felicity can get out of it because she's like, I love you because blah, 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 blah. It means more and it hits harder coming from Lila. It is, I know this is good, but it's a bit disappointing that Felicity used to be that character, the capable, strong,
capable
female
woman.
character of the show, and now she's been reduced to this emotional mess this season. But it's a great,
we'll get to that.
It's a great moment for Lila, for sure.
There was also, I thought, possibly Felicity's best scene in this entire season, where was Oliver in their old apartment. And right before she's getting ready to head out to do this attack.
She's got a lot of eyeshadow on.
She has too much eyeshadow. And Oliver says, he's like, I did everything to save the city, and it created Prometheus. And now Felicity is doing everything to stop Prometheus. And Oliver's like, I'm asking you to stop. And I think that scene, not only was it Felicity's best, and Stephen Amell, again, killing it, being very soft in that episode, what a great over-meta examination of Arrow as a whole.
Yes.
That all the problems they are experiencing in Season 5 is because of all the crap that Oliver did in Season 1.
They're reactionary to the creation of Arrow in the first place.
Yeah. I thought that was a great... And again, thought that was possibly Felicity's best scene this entire season.
Yeah, I thought she was very good in it. It gave a good performance.
There also was another interesting choice in this episode that I have not noticed before.
Oh?
Oliver comes home after Felicity bests him with lasers, and he pulls a drink for himself.
Yeah, they're in the cave.
And basically tells them all to leave.
Yeah.
And Oliver sits there and drinks by himself.
Yeah, with a book.
What an interesting choice for Oliver. That this is like sort of a broken Oliver. This is my guess, that Oliver's now broken. Because we're going to talk a little bit about why he's not wearing the Arrow suit anymore, which is a little weird to me. But Oliver doesn't drink alone. This is not Oliver.
Oliver doesn't really drink.
He'll
drink socially.
We've seen him drink before with John.
Yes.
With John.
And I think drinking alone, and if you go home at night and have a beer or a glass of wine, this is not me passing a judgment on you, but drinking alone as a narrative device tells you a lot about a character, and it tells you kind of how broken Oliver is right now. And it might be him taking on the bad habits of people around him, because we saw Laurel do that. We've seen Lance do that. It's interesting, and it might just be a choice they made for this episode, but it could be a character moment that's going to tell us where he's going to be for the rest of the season as well.
You have any more good before we move into the bad?
Well, I think we covered all the good.
All right, bad. Right in the episode. Prometheus makes an arcade graphic for a machine. That's a little silly.
Where... Put the green costume back on. You look stupid.
No, we're not. We'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that. Felicity just ran to Helix every time she had a problem. Again. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the minor nitpick. Oliver is not wearing his hood. So he started wearing this the weird Deathstroke kind of mask.
It's a hockey mask.
Yeah. So is he? Do you think they're playing the point that he doesn't feel that he's worthy of it, or that he's worried about what it makes him? Because he gave it up in that episode where Prometheus was like, you like to kill people.
Yeah, but it would have been more powerful, and I know he's done this a gazillion times, if he just stopped.
Yeah.
Like him still going out there
with a gun.
In the weird-ass black getup is just silly. It's like Spider-Man's first outfit. Like, no.
Also, okay... Oh, God. The computer hacking storyline in this was insane. So the hackers get guns. The hackers invade buildings because they're trying to rescue their guy. Felicity's like, yeah, hackers, you're right. And there are some aspects that they are right.
Sure.
A little bit.
Sure. I mean, there's always
due process.
2 sides of every... Yeah, there is. This is not the way to go about fixing it.
No.
Proto-Felicity, like, murders someone in the beginning of this episode.
In an elevator. And has no problem with it.
And then, I don't know what her name is, so whatever.
Yeah.
And then Felicity, like, is fine with that, turns around in a scene to give all of her crap about killing people, then goes back to Proto-Felicity, who hires mercenaries from, like, Craigslist.
Yeah,
like,
from the darknet.
This is... Look, the darknet's a thing, hackers are a thing, hacktivism is a thing, and there's good aspects of all of that, but this is like a power fantasy about Anonymous.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and it's not very well executed.
And then especially Felicity, for weird reasons, betrays the team at every turn.
For no reason.
For no reason. Just to help, just because she thinks they can help, they can find Prometheus.
Just to help Proto-Felicity.
Yeah. And then at the end, the hackers are like, we're done with you.
Yeah, they're like,
so she did it for nothing. I don't know. It didn't really play off.
But again, by them sort of beaching her and leaving her alone with the original team, it renders her help and kind of the plot of this episode a little meaningless because she's just where she was before that. So why did we even tell the story?
Yeah. All right, so let's move straight into the rating of this Arrow episode based on a scale of 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Ashley, what would you give Dangerous Liaisons?
Okay, so for taking the title of a classic French play and for the great emotional character moments that we got outside of the hacking storyline, I still think this is a pretty good episode of Arrow, and I'm going to give it 3. I think there was more good than bad here. How about you?
I agree with you. There were some great emotional moments in here. All the Felicity hacking stuff was a little ridiculous, and that helps knock it down a couple pegs. Also, this is the same problem with Flash. The Flash has done a little bit. It's time to face Prometheus flat on, and this episode kind of feels like we're spinning our wheels. I get that the entire episode is about like finding Prometheus, but he showed up at the end anyway, so it doesn't matter. I also am going to give this a 3.
Yay!
It's not terrible, but it's not the best. This is an okay episode of Arrow.
Yeah.
All right, so based on this episode of Arrow, what's your prediction for the future?
My prediction for the future is that we are going to see Felicity be a really big part of the final fight between Oliver and Prometheus. I think she's going to try to come in to help in some way, and Adrian is going to wind up taking her captive. And I think how Oliver decides to save her, whether or not he decides to save her, is going to be a big turning point leading into season 6. Arrow season 6. What? Wow. That's amazing. Awesome. Yeah. So I think they've made Felicity kind of a cog in the gear. Like she's been a big problem.
Cog in the
That's
gear.
That's not what I mean at all. She's been a big problem this season. And no, but I don't. You know, like when something gets stuck in between
cog
two
in the gears.
I don't know.
Cog in the machine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Stay away from cogs.
Don't go following no cogs. And I think you don't have her be this much of an obstacle and not pay it off in the final fight. It's really what I mean. And what do you think is coming up for Arrow?
I think Lila might die.
No, don't say that.
I do, because we had a big conflict between her and John that didn't really get resolved. And I kind of think that she might somehow make some decision to redeem herself to John, and that puts her in a position where Prometheus kills her. And I think we could be going into season 6 with John being a single father.
Oh, don't do that to baby John.
I think it's sad, but if you think about it, they obviously are not going to make Lila a full-time cast member because they would have done it by now.
Yes, I agree.
So what purpose does Lila serve now?
Well, she's the head of Argus, so...
To die. That's her purpose. Also, her death would affect the entire team. They all went to their wedding. They all were at the birth. That would be a way that you could kill a cast member, have it affect the entire team, but not lose one of your main cast. Because we know we're not losing Wild Dog. We're not losing Black Canary. We're not losing Mr. Terrific. I mean, maybe Ragman, because we haven't seen him. I don't know.
Yeah, and you're definitely not losing John and Oliver.
We're not losing John, Oliver, or Felicity. We're not losing any of those. So Lila is the one person you could kill and have it affect the entire team.
And Arrow notoriously.
And Arrow usually kills somebody or maims somebody pretty bad. So I don't know. I worried that this episode was setting up Lila dying.
Just kill Thea.
Oh, there we go. Where the hell has Thea been again? Good Lord.
Who cares?
Exactly. Who cares? All All right, head on down to the comments and tell us which of our theories you think is correct. And while you're down there, click subscribe.
And why not click on one of the videos that's popped up on your screen and click the big button in the middle that'll take you to patreon.com/Jawiin and get you more exclusive geeky content.
We'll see you next week for more DCTV recap. Load your arrow and shoot.